I bring all of that here to the Meadow, that long career and that appreciation for how to put best practices into play. After arriving at the Meadow, I very quickly, it was cold and it was winter, but knowing that I had spent years with RV rallies and the RV rally business, I looked around and I thought, you know, one segment that really fits the future, I think, would be recreational vehicle rallies. They are suited for our property. To me, they're clean business. They, I want to first explain that what a recreational vehicle rally, that's the segment that we're trying to target. And that simply would be very similar to a convention in a hotel where we have a common interest, whether it be fares or taxes or real estate sales, and we meet. These are common meetings of folks who own like manufactured RVs, whether it be Airstreams, Holiday Ramblers, Family Motor Coach, the Newmar Corporation, and they gather. They travel throughout the United States. They basically have conventions. Fairground and facilities like ours are perfectly suited because of the infrastructure that's in place. The buildings where they hold seminars, learn about driving RVs, new product lines. It very much is clean business and very few security issues. The interesting thing is that it's not just something that happens at our property, but it's a huge positive impact on the county. It's not just tourism, but it's the gas stations and it's grocery stores, and these are folks traveling and filling up and supplying their RVs with what they need. I think the other thing we all need to consider is that I did just come here after a 25-year career, and I didn't make that decision lightly. I did that because I think the Meadow has an incredible future, and it's a beautiful property, and that we can have the best state fair in America at that property. But to get there and to get out from under what that property has gone through in the last 3 or 4 years, we've got to be very smart, resourceful. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We have Farm Bureau, as you know, owns our property. We have 3 years left on the buyout that took place to get out from under the owner who bought the property. And I, like many others, will celebrate when that 3 years is up. It's a huge financial strain on us. So we are looking for, we're looking for things that we can do to shore up our bottom line and get through that 3 years and keep everything moving ahead in a positive manner. As most of you know, we have a lot of outdoor events, but the challenge with those events is Mother Nature can either deal you a very good hand or deal you a very bad hand, like she did last weekend with our Country Fest event. We have flat land, we have an exceptional road access, we have a beautiful county, and we have a built-in historic story to tell with the Secretariat story. We're in great proximity, midway in the Mid-Atlantic. All of these assets together position us as a perfect RV rally destination. I don't know that folks realize it is an industry. There are 9 million households who own an RV, and in 2015, 365,000 RV units will be shipped in America, more than at any time since 2006. They are a stable option for our future, and I know they are. I've worked with them for 25 years. It is one of the best segments of business in our industry, and everybody is vying to get their business. I would say and tell you tonight very honestly that we have 3 serious inquiries sitting on my desk right now, and our organization respectfully requests that you do vote in support of this effort tonight so that we can move from what was to what can be. I will address very quickly on this particular issue before leaving it that we do have to file plans with the county. There are structures, there's a structured process in place for us to even hold one of these events that addresses layouts, safety, infrastructure, utilities, and what we're trying to do right now is leverage the assets we have in place. We do not have the financial wherewithal to build swimming pools and to expand. And it's basically just surveying the property and saying, how can we make the most of what we have right in front of us, and make it be a positive venture. As I said, we have a safety committee in place, we have fire and rescue, we have all of the necessary oversight to assure this body and the county and our residents that we are following proper protocol. We right now could handle, I think, around 350 RV units. Certainly we have to deal with traffic and move in and move outs of those, but I'll go back to the term I used early on. It's good business and it's clean business, and these are folks who present no security issue. The issue of fireworks, I'm going to take that separately. I will also tell you and tell everyone that's here that fireworks are not, they're very expensive. And I want to make it clear that this issue is not on the table because we have plans to shoot fireworks 4 times a year. They cost about $1,000 a minute for 3 to 5 inch shells. It's not something you go into to spend money on and take it lightly. You don't get a lot of return out of them, so this is just simply to allow the property flexibility. The level of permit and procedures in place that mandate and regulate fireworks is very deep. It's not something you just decide you're doing. There's a lot of protocol, diagrams, safety mechanisms. All of those pieces are there that have to be complied with before a permit can ever be issued. So there's a layer in place to be sure that anyone requesting to do this does so following proper protocol and procedure. I also know that there are notification procedures for our property neighbors, and obviously we would comply with those procedures and notifications, whether it be mail, email, phone calls, personal visits. We're not trying to do anything in secret, and overall on both issues, we're simply trying, to move ahead. I've only been here 5 months now, and it's been fast and furious, but I do believe from a business standpoint, based on my prior experience, that this is an incredible opportunity for the Meadow Event Park. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Are there other persons, citizens, who would like to speak regarding this?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors. Linwood Broadus, Bowling Green Voting District. I'm president of Caroline County Farm Bureau. I do a lot of volunteering at the State Fair. The reason that I do a lot of volunteering over there is because I farm, I'm involved in agriculture. The State Fair is the premier exhibit for what I do. It shows off the livestock, it shows off the crops, it shows off my industry. Meadow Event Park shows off Caroline County. Having an RV rally there with people coming to Caroline, spending money, going to grocery stores, looking at the incredible tourism that we have around here. Because I mean, we're nowhere, what is it, an hour from Williamsburg, from Jamestown, you're from DC, Richmond. It provides an incredible opportunity. Also, it provides a credible opportunity for Caroline in they'll be, like I said, spending money, bringing tax revenue, bringing money to the county. Fireworks, I've been seeing all the advertisements on TV this week about 4th of July fireworks. I love fireworks. I remember when the county had fireworks over at the high school. Go over there with your kids. It was a good family event. They're not asking for fireworks every night. If I lived next to them and they were doing fireworks every night, I would be complaining. 4 times a year to allow for special events, I think that shows off the county. That's a money maker. It attracts people to Meadow Event Park. Like I said before, they spend money. It brings tax revenue to the county. anything we can do to promote business in Caroline County is a good thing. So I'm in full support of this. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Broadus. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Colley, I'm Catherine Burris, and I'm from the Mattaponi Magisterial District. I keep wanting to say I'm from Reedy Church District for some reason, and that's no offense to you, Mr. Thomas. You've served us well, thank you. But we were there for a long time. But I do want to say to you that I hope that you will give serious consideration to this request. Meadow Event Park has been a wonderful asset to our community. I remember when it came before the board that you invite them here. And one of the things that was said then was the need for us to look at the opportunity to provide a place where youth can develop themselves into appropriate adults through the nurturing of their experiences and the opportunity for them to grow. With that having been said, when we talk about camping, another avenue that could come into play is us reaching out to bring in some Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, youth groups, and have them actually work toward merit achievements at the Meadow. There are all kinds of merit accomplishments that could happen there. We also have found that there's an opportunity for the Meadow to serve as one of the best ambassadors for Caroline County. For a while, I worked as a part-time staff there, and in listening to the guests who came through the facility, one of the things that they always said was, I had no idea. Caroline County is a beautiful place. I would like to spend more time here. What's here for us to see? So not only do they come and see a very attractive property, have a good time on that property, but they want to see what else is happening here. So it's a great opportunity to build a stronger partnership with our tourism folks. Gary and his staff would be certainly an important part of reaching out to the RV guests who come into our community. I would very much like for you to give serious thought to this request. I do understand our neighbors who don't want the noise and who are concerned about their animals. We have not livestock, but we have some animals on our own household property, and they're disturbed once in a while when the emergency equipment goes down. Do I come and complain about that? No. If there's emergency equipment going, I know that there's somebody who needs it. So there are just some things that living in a rural community we have to accept as being part of that community. And I do hope that you will approve this request and allow Meadow Park to continue to grow and be a viable part of our community and take advantage of it being our best ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Burris. Are there other persons who would like to speak during the public comment section?
Good evening. My name is Billy Lambert, Reedy Church District. Since the Meadow's been in play, our quality of life for me and my family has been greatly reduced. When I talked to my board of supervisor about it, I hear you guys talk about quality of life about other people around the county all the time, but when it comes to the people who live around there, it seems that you don't care. We deal with a lot of the noise. We moved here to be out in the country. We deal with the traffic. We deal with people coming on our property. It's getting too much. So I'm against this.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing?
Gentlemen, my name is Don Filsuf. I'm in the Bowling District with Mr. Jeff Seeley. What I want to say is this. This is the first time I heard about this in the county. Do you believe this is fair that you guys go out to approve or disapprove something like this without anybody else in the county knowing what's going on here? I think this is not fair.
Fair. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this public hearing? Seeing no one with the intent to speak, I will close the public hearing. Board members, I know board members have concerns. Would you like for Mr. Fincham to try to address some of the questions first, or would the board members like to do that?
I'm sorry, I have a couple of questions of Mr. Fincham, so
Okay.
if he would like to come and
Okay.
he
Mr.
can do
Fincham?
everything. Thank you. Mr. Fincham, the two amendments they would like to propose are fireworks and campgrounds. They are not tied together, so it's not approve one, approves the other. They're exclusive, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In addition to that, if I had a camper right now and I wanted to go to the fairgrounds and I could find a parking space for my camper, what's wrong with that?
It's technically not allowed under the ordinance. They're limited as to whom and when camping can occur on the property. State fair, your
Right.
setup, equine events, those are the limitations regarding temporary overnight lodging.
So any scheduled event that they would normally have, people with campers can come and attend those scheduled events, park their camper.
Limited to those situations.
Those two events?
Those situations.
Those situations, yeah. I mean, there's the Secretariat Day. I got a camper. I can drive my camper down there and stay Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right?
No, sir.
Okay. I can drive my camper down there and stay during the state fair the whole time.
No, sir.
Okay. Only overnight.
No, sir.
Never at all.
No, sir.
My camper's got to keep going. It can never stop.
Stop a mile back up the road at Kings Dominion.
Now, realistically, though, there are, you said only during those scheduled events. So how can a camper get there now?
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be at all.
That's correct.
Okay. And under this proposal, they would only be allowed during certain events that they would actually specify beforehand, or?
Yes, they would have to come in and submit an operational and safety plan for this event. It's like any other event that they have there. We have a procedure set up where we look at the safety, security needs, EMS, fire, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
That's been expanded to include specifically the health department, because the health department has to approve sanitation for these specific events. Whether you have 10, and I'll use the word campers, or 500 campers, one size does not fit all, so the health department has to review and approve each specific event as part of the overall safety and operations plan.
Okay, but theoretically, if this were to pass, every proposed RV event would come before the Planning Commission, and you would make that approval?
It would come through...
And the other agencies, right?
Not the Planning Commission. It would come through the process that was set up through the zoning,
Right.
which requires a public safety review for the operations of that event and the safety of that, health and safety of that event.
Okay, and we have no maximum in this particular ordinance. So they could do 52 if they wanted to?
Events?
Yeah.
In theory, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Fincham, for now.
Mr. Black, do you have?
Yeah, I've just got a couple. I want to touch on the fireworks issue.
Yes, sir.
Because that's the the one of the more concern for me, is right now the state fair, are they allowed to do fireworks at all at their event and with the actual state fair?
During the state fair, they are allowed to display fireworks up to 4 nights during the state fair.
So they would be allowed to do 4 more times, is what we're saying, outside the state fair?
No, that would count as one of the events. So you're transferring, in theory, they can do 4 nights during the state fair. Under this proposed amendment, you could do it 4 times a year, 1 night each time.
So the state fair just counts as 1 night?
Or they could do 2 or 3. That would count towards their 4 events a year.
So if they did all 4 during the 10 days of the state fair, then that would be their 4 times, that would be done?
Yes, sir.
And it's limited to 30 minutes?
It's limited to the...
It was 30 minutes, wasn't it? That's what I read.
Yes.
30, it was limited to 30 minutes. I just got another follow-up question. How far is the state fair? I mean, I know it's close to King's Dominion. How far are we talking?
Roughly a mile, maybe, to the property boundary.
And
maybe.
What is, now King's Dominion, do we know, I mean, how often are they allowed to shoot off fireworks? Every night? Okay. So they're shooting off fireworks every night, and then this is a mile away. So this would only be 4 times a year.
Mile.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot one question. May I ask that? Mr. Fincham, I'm not sure you can answer this question, but there was some discussion. I think the applicant mentioned something about transient occupancy tax in respect to this camper thing, since they were basically going to be like hotel rooms for the night. We would charge a transient occupancy tax. Does anybody know what the prospective revenue would be from an event?
I think it depends on the number of attendees, and I think it would be speculation, but I think in terms of the rate, Ms. Carter is here tonight. She could address the rate for transient occupancy.
I just need some kind of ballparky number. I'm not going to hold you to it, but I was looking on the RV Rally site. It's called Passport America, and they've got all sorts of things. They charge $349 for 2 people, 1 RV, 30 amp hookup, and then an additional $95 for each person. So if that's like a hotel room of $300, $400, I'm getting $4 per. Does that sound right, Mrs. Carter?
5% of the charges just for the overnight stay.
Okay.
We would not give that on other events that were held during the time. That
Right.
was the rate for the overnight.
So to make the math really easy, if it's $400 and I get 5%, I would get $20 per. Actually, yeah, that's right. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay. That's $2.
There will be a different rate schedule, depending on what type of event they're having. If it's 10 camps, I'm sure their rates are lower than that than they would for a full service. The transient occupancy would apply to whatever.
I'm just trying to just ballparky, get an idea, and that was what the question I wanted. So $20 ballparky per camper, 100 campers, $2,000, something like that per event if there's 100. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Akins, did you have questions?
Yeah, the handout that was left on the desk tonight, it breaks down as to the number of RVs, I guess, and tents that would be there. At the bottom, it says the total site 1,250. Now, that 1,250 represents what?
That's 1,250 tent sites.
1,250 tent sites.
And if you look at the matrix up above,
334.
it would be 334 RV sites. So if you go to the map, which delineates the different areas,
Yeah.
those areas are broken down. You could have X number of tent sites or X number of RV sites. You would not mix the two in an event.
Yeah, I read that.
Right.
But it just seemed like to me it was just because the presenter talked in terms of rallies, RV rallies. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why someone would come to an RV rally and stay in a tent. I don't understand that concept about the tents and the RV rallies. So
You might have,
help me.
and I can let the applicant speak to that, but you're right. A tent camper might not come to an RV rally, but there might be a camping event where they utilize the tent sites and don't set up RVs.
We weren't presented tonight with other alternatives. What we were presented with tonight has been RV. That's where her experience has been. That's where everything she's done has been within the RV. And so again, I'm not able to wrap my arms around how the campsites come into play. I may not have as much problem with RV sites as I do with tent sites. And especially when you're talking about 1,250 tent sites. Because I don't know what you would do at Meadowvent Park if you're going to have 1,250 tent sites setting all over our Meadowvent Park. And again, I may not have as much problem with the RV as I would tents. I do have a problem with the tents, to be quite honest. And so I'm trying to figure out why we're mixing them together, why we're talking about RV sites and tent sites and those type of things. If the applicant is looking really to try to lure some of the RV rallies into her facility, then that's fine. That may not be a bad thing, but I'm not sure what she would lure, what the applicant would lure with the tent sites. Maybe she can better explain that. I don't know, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Cully wants to try to address that.
Okay.
Sir.
Well, I just wanted to add a comment to both Mr. Thomas's and yours. This is a special exception.
Yeah.
You can limit the number of events a year, 10 or 12, 15, whatever. It doesn't have to be. And you can limit RVs, no tents, if that's what you are comfortable with. So it's not proffered. You don't have to accept what they've said. Special exception, you can put the limits on you want.
I understand that. I'm just trying to give her a chance to clarify the fact for the need for 1,250 tent sites, as well as the 350 RV sites.
Can I also, on that same line, I can limit the number, can I limit the time frame, since the applicant has said they need this 3-year time frame to basically pay down their note? Can I say you can have 5 events for the next 3 years or something in that sense? Well, I want to make sure this was legal. I tend to flirt with the edge, so. Is that something I could do?
Mr. Thomas, I think you can place a limit. You could place a review on that.
Well, I know we can do a review on a special exception.
Or a renewal. By our ordinance, you can require this provision to be renewed as well. Because this is a freestanding special exception. It's allowed within this district.
And the review is more stringent than a renewal, or the other way around?
Renewal is more stringent than a review.
Renewal is more stringent, so if we had a 3-year renewal, they would have paid for their, right, you come back through the entire process, they would have paid for that. Maybe the neighbors wouldn't have a problem, maybe you had a chance to make it a success. Okay.
Let me address the tent piece first, and that's a valid, I will explain what the rationale there is. They are two different things. The idea was, if we're looking at camping events, I really believe we have some potential at the Meadow to tie our educational programming for youth into events that bring, whether it's Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, religious retreats. And I think, and what I'm trying to do is to look ahead a little bit and position us so that if we can look for opportunities to grow the business at the Meadow with clean business, that we're not coming back time after time because we're so restricted. So the tent piece, We're not at all interested in tent camping for country music festivals. We're not looking for that. We're looking for the ability to host a group of Boy Scouts who may take the natural resources trail piece, the educational piece, turn that into a weekend where they do a merit badge effort, and they tent camp near the river or something like that. I think of the two, the RV rally business is certainly the more important part of it. The one, I can think of a few groups that, and they're not, that I've worked with in the past. Christian Motorcycles of America came to our facility, and because they're traveling on motorcycles, and they're not loud, they're more Honda Goldwing type bikes, but they pulled small pop-up tent type things that really are classified more as a tent than they are an RV, and they use very limited electric. So that's why that piece is in there. As far as the timing on things, I think it's a segment that you have to go after, and they're looking far ahead, and they're planning regional and international rallies 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. So what we have to do is, we have to take it step by step, and we have to position ourselves to where we know we can actually submit a proposal for the business. So it's not something that can happen overnight, but having the ability to go seek the business. If we look at a 5-year window for the Meadow Event Park, and we have steady growth, we're going to have the ability to host one, to learn how to do it. I mean, not to learn, but just we have to build our name and our reputation for hosting, and I think we can do that. As far as the worrying about the timing, honestly, right now, our event schedule on the grounds and our facility rental schedule, I wish I had it with me, but I did a report for Farm Bureau the other day for a board meeting. And I think in 2016, we already have 77 events on the books. And that's everything from wedding receptions to trade shows to horse shows. It's the full gamut of what we do. And then in addition to that, we have the light show and the fair. So we're going to be faced with a real challenge in even finding good windows of time to be able to bring the business in and position it on the property. If we already have a wedding booked, we can't turn around and pull a contract on a wedding just to have another piece of business. So it's going to be difficult. We don't have a lot of physical structures, and they want to meet indoors. So we're going to have to work around things that were already scheduled out even into 2017. So it's the scheduling part, and it's going to be very tricky.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Seeley?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. When you talk about a rally, what length, how many days do they come and stay?
I, over the years, have worked with probably 6 different manufacturers, and anywhere from a weekend, like coming in on a Thursday, and they meet Friday, Saturday, and go their separate ways on Sunday. Probably the longest would be the one I visited last summer that would be the Newmar folks, and their core meetings go 5 days. And on the front end, you'll have 2 days where it's very much like the fair. There's a team of volunteers who organize the meeting and come in early to get the building set up and kind of work with the community to get everything in place. So the very most, I would think, would be, I don't think you'll find many rallies that actually have the core meeting part of it over 6 days.
How many stay days are we talking about?
How many
days actually campers
on the property? If you if I am just an attendee and I'm not a planner, I would think 5 or 6 would be the max. But very often folks will plan their trip in and they may take in 3 days of the convention and then move on. They're on the road and they have a travel schedule. It's not really, I can't think of any that I have worked with over the years that are long in duration. One in particular, and it was 10 years ago, I think, had a large group of volunteers who did travel to the area a little earlier than what we as a facility really liked. But the upside of that is if we have the ability and the potential to seek the business and they call us and they want to come in early to do planning and it's outside of the parameters that have been set, then they have campgrounds very close to our property that they have access to.
And that's my point, is I don't want to see this stretch into 8 days, 9 days. Somebody comes as they're pre-planning and staying. I understand 5, maybe 6, but once you get beyond that, to me, it's like, you know, we're on vacation and we're camping and we're...
Well, you typically have a group of a group that comes in at least 2 or 3 days ahead. That's your meeting organizers, your rally organizers, but the attendees who are just attending for fun aren't in the management of the process. You know, I think it's very rare that you're going to go over a total of 8, 9, 10 days would be max. And again, if I don't want to see us be so restricted that it limits us on the front end and then we're driving business into the next county, but I also realize the concern. We're not interested in, I know there's a concern about us being a campground, and that's not what we're after either, so.
My other question is, how many rallies a year do you foresee? If you were going to put a number.
My honest professional opinion is that, and I'm going to look 5 years down the road because it's going to take some really hard work on our end to position ourselves to market the facility, to get the plans. I think any facility of our type would be doing good if we could land 5 would be exceptional in the business because there's a lot of competition for the business. And I think the larger rallies, you'll have rallies you might have 50 that travel. You have small state level rallies and then you have regional and there are some international rallies. We are not in a position right now to just infrastructure wise to have a big rally. So there are differing sizes. So when I said 5, I'm talking larger, the 300 or so sites that we could have with the existing infrastructure. If we had 5 of those a year, I would be very proud of our facility. Within that, if we can do some small state rallies that are smaller and more manageable, then our existing campgrounds would actually handle some of those smaller ones. So large ones 5 in a year, a total of 10. But again, that would include some small ones. It comes down to scheduling, and I think we're going to be hard-pressed to fit a lot into an already busy schedule.
So is it 5 or is it 10? Because rally is a rally. To me, size, whether it's 300 or 50, it's still a rally.
Then I would say 10, because within that, realistically, you have to account for our ability to have small ones in the mix, and they're going to be easier to come by. Larger ones, harder because you've got more competition, and they're looking a little further out.
I'm just looking to see what else I had written. Payment. I was listening to Mr. Thomas with the transient occupancy tax. Who collects that?
Well, that came up in discussion, and I mean, that to me is not I understood it and read the tax code and understand that it's in place for campgrounds. I think you could have the property collect it. The property collects very often the RV organizers they'll collect the nightly collections or registrations for their attendees. And then at the conclusion of the event, the facility sits down, we do a settlement meeting where you go over all the nights, you settle the finances, so we would accept their payment to us for use of the facility, and it would include the nights, RV nights, so then we could turn around and we could process a check to the county and provide written documentation from the rally for the overnight stays.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just had a couple of, well, to the gentleman who talked about the first time hearing it, any special exception is advertised. So citizens may be hearing it for the first time, but it has been advertised in the local paper. It has gone through the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission has basically made a suggestion to the board that it be approved based on the information that they have received. So citizens may be hearing it for the first time, but it's not because it has not been out there or there haven't been opportunities, for citizens to know about it. I'm going to let you. I know you wanted to go last, so that's why. Okay, and some of the questions about how many events and how long, you've kind of touched on some of those things. Basically, I think you were saying something like 10 events, maybe, and you said, between 5 to 10 days. I don't know if they're all constant. I guess one of the questions I would have to you, would you be applicable to, or how would you feel about if the board placed some limits, if the board did decide to go with this special exception, how would you deal with limits if the board decided to do that? I mean, they have the right to do that anyway.
Sure.
But,
Sure, I understand that. I think my response there would simply be that limits on the volume, the number, 10, or don't bother me quite as much as starting to limit. If you go backwards and you say you can have 5 that are this size, then it puts us in a position of being too restricted. What I think would be acceptable or logical would be to use the planning process that is already in place and the permit applications, and we have to fill those out and we go through that, and certainly the county still maintains the right to deny something if they see that it's too large, or it's, we still have a lot of proving of how something will operate before it can be approved. So I guess I would hate to see so many restrictions placed on it that we can't then, that we're limited in going out and seeking the business and then find ourselves having to pull back a little. So I realize it's a double-edged sword.
Okay. And I just had one more before Mr. Underwood. Somebody talked about sewage disposal and how that might be an issue. Can you talk a little bit about that, or maybe Mike might be the one to do that? I don't know.
Well, the document that we prepared to try to give everyone an overview of the numbers that we have existing is simply, it's really it's a presentation of what exists at the Meadow Event Park that is there and infrastructure in place. And the sewage treatment plant on property, and I mean, it's really no different than how things operate during the state fair. If you imagine our facility full with food concessions and the campgrounds full, they're all using the same infrastructure and sewage, water, power that we're talking about for these.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question to you, did you contact any of your neighbors regarding wanting to change